What should I say now? You know, having heard so much of knowledge, you said I don't want to expose my ignorance. By then, you had not heard me. So there is a greater ignorant fellow in this whole gathering. I would also want to answer. I'm sure many of you must be wondering why I'm here, not only because I was there when Sagar was announced by my Honorable Prime Minister. When Anup, there are so many things one can talk about, but let me choose my path carefully so that I remain relevant to the conversation today. When I was a young uh, diplomat, believe me, very rarely I'll get an invitation to talk about oceans. Yes, there are many other things we're talking about, but nobody was talking about oceans, right? Interestingly, as a young, very young diplomat, I was posted very close to the Pacific coast, South Pacific coast in the Americas. And I, those days we didn't have internet. So, of course, I used to get telegrams, right? So I get a telegram message that we presume this year there is likely to be El Nino. Can you please send us a report? How much, how soon, and all those predictions. Believe me, I had never heard about El Nino, right? El Nino in Spanish means the child. So I said, which child are they talking about? I thought I was the youngest in the mission. Are they talking about me? But then I asked my local colleagues, what is this El Nino? Oh, they said, sir, please, yes, it's something important. It doesn't relate to you. It's much more important than that. So I said, what is that? Then I went to meet the people relevant to the theme. I said, tell me what is this happening? And why is Delhi worried? If some El Nino thing is happening in Peru, what? Something about 12 to 15,000 kilometers straight? They told me about El Nino. El Nino is next to the Peruvian coast, a certain part of the ocean. When the temperature rises 0.5 degrees, average, 0.5 degrees, El Nino sets in. I'm sure you're reading El Nino newspapers these days again, right? And once the El Nino sets in, it stays there for 2 to 4 years. And as long as the El Nino stays there, India can have drought. Can you imagine? Half a degree far off place, and India can have drought. I was amazed. I said, what the hell is going on? And then they explained to me, they said, sir, it's not only El Nino. El Nino is a boy. He said, there is something called La Nina. She's a young girl. I said, what the girl does then? If the boy does this, then what does the girl do to us? They said, if there is La Nina, India would have floods. Now, can you imagine what was the capacity of oceans to connect the world, both in progress and in misery? Yes? Of course, I did my El Nino, La Nina phenomena. And then I forgot, right? Because I left that area. I said, let them deal with La Nina and El Nino. And then suddenly, when I was in Europe, we started talking about phenomena called global warming. That was pre-Kyoto. I'm sure you have heard about Kyoto. Suddenly, I heard the world was again getting troubled by the possibility of rising temperatures. And this time, it was not only next to Peru in the Pacific coast, but they were talking about the temperature rising literally everywhere. Now, if a small patch of temperature variation could cause this disaster, obviously, if the temperature was going to rise all over, what could be the consequences? Right? And that is where I really got worried. Right? Not by El Nino and La Nina. I thought still all right, once in a while for 4 years, we can take it. But now we were looking at a more long-term threat at our hand and a more horizontal threat which would impact every one of us. Now then, one starts thinking in a common man's language because there's a lot of technical stuff in this which could make the whole subject very boring. Then the common sense doesn't become boring, right? We said, all right, let's look at the common sense now. Yes? So in common sense, we all ask, as humanity, which would either be blessed or threatened, what is that humanity seeking? Sir, you mentioned about M.G. Kuman and others. I had the privilege of working with them also, and a whole range of chairpersons of Atomic Energy Commission and the Space Commission. Now, what do people want? Yes. So the other day I was reading a philosophy called Charvak. Yes. And what do they say? They say, stay happy. You must have good life. The only objective a human being or a human society must have is have good life. Right? Now, then they explain it's a very complicated thing again, because then it becomes technical. But the core message is be happy. Right? Now, how do we become happy? Now, that's a very big question. Right? Then we simplify it again. Now, that is what diplomats do. So we said, all right, let's simplify. What is happiness? Right? And then we came to this conclusion that there was somewhat a direct link between happiness and prosperity. Right? Earth. So that is how the Shastras say. Earth can stop unearth. Right? That's also earth. So that we need to stop unearth. And sadness is unearth. And to stop it, you need earth, right? Which will make you happy. Now I said, what is this earth now? Right? Now you realize I was a greater ignorant. So we discovered earth means what? Basically economic development. Right? Do you have money, which is earth, with you to stop unearth? Which means economic growth. Yes? Dig deep long, and in about last over 100 years, in the global economy, we added just about $90 trillion. Remember the figure, $90 trillion. Yes? And in next less than 15 years, we want to add another $93 trillion. right? 100 years, $93 trillion, and we have already messed up the whole planet. You're talking about the rivers, forests, soil, air, whatever you look at. We have completely messed up the planet for arriving at $93 trillion in over 100 years. We want to repeat that in next 12 to 15 years. Can you imagine what kind of destruction we can imagine as a result of our desire for that earth? We thought the earth will stop on earth, but the very effort to bring that earth might cause an earth. Yes? The capacity of this Mother Earth to provide those resources that we need for development, be it energy, material, mineral, education, healthcare, water, whatever you call it. The capacity of Earth's capacity of providing those resources is already exceeded by almost 35 to 40%. Every year, you exceed that capacity by 35 to 40%. There is something called Earth's overshoot. Okay? When you exhaust the Earth's capacity for that particular year, and that overshoot day comes in the month of July or August, which means for 5 months, we dig into Earth's future. And we have been doing it for decades now. And can you imagine where the Earth would be? Having messed up the land, now we are looking at the oceans. Yes? Which means oceans were out of mind, out of sight. In a way, they were protected because of our ignorance. Yes? Because we didn't know, so chhod diya unko. Now we are heading towards oceans. Oceans have always been there. They have been there as source of food. They have been there as for recreation, later energy, transportation, wars, peace, and whatever you call it. Right? They have always been there. Yes? But now we are looking at adding $90 trillion in just about few years, 12 years. We want to go to the ocean for minerals, for additional energy, for biochemicals, for drugs and pharmaceuticals. We want to go to the bed of the sea for extraction of minerals. This could be a disaster. Then you talk to the ocean, can we come there? Yes. Would you welcome us if we come there for additional resources? The ocean says, you think you have not messed me up, but you have also messed me up. Already. Says, look at the pollution you have caused in ocean. That pollution is causing acidification. That acidification is destroying my wildlife or biodiversity. It's reducing my capacity to serve you, in fact. It says, every second breath you take, the oxygen in that is produced by me. Me means the ocean, right? And you're struggling to capture the carbon dioxide. 1/3 of the carbon dioxide I absorb for you at no cost to you. It's a free service. And now, with this whole pollution acidification, my capacity to produce oxygen and absorb carbon dioxide will go down and my temperature would rise. If the temperature rises, it can really impact the whole basic functions of the planet. It is no more a little here, little there, right? It's no more that you get a particular species of fish in your waters or not. It can hurt the very basic planetary functions because those cycles are largely controlled by oceans, in fact. The climatic cycle, the water cycle, you name it, the weather systems, they're all regulated by the ocean. Just imagine if suddenly we stop receiving rain because the ocean now feels you have exceeded its capacity. What happens? Where shall we go? And nobody so far was listening to the ocean. And that is why we thought ocean means, at best, maritime security. Right? Because the ships go, so we have to secure the supply lines. And therefore, we need some, naval hardware to make sure that those lines are not disturbed. That will not sustain the ocean life the way it should be. Anup, you mentioned about solutions. I had a conference where I had one colleague from Africa. He says, "Sir, my problem is that some learned fellow comes to me and tell me what problem I have. I don't know. But he tells me, sir, you have this problem." First, I don't accept. He convinces me, says, no, I have a full literature, you have a problem. And then I say, sir, all right. If I have this problem, what do I do? He says, I also have a solution. Yes? So he says, they tell me the problem, they bring a solution. I have to heavily pay for both. First, knowing the problem, then finding the solution. Yes? He said, now they're telling me plastic pollution, microplastic. And therefore, they need very sophisticated technology to decontaminate the sea waters of plastic pollution. He said, sir, when I tell them, can you please tell me where this thing come from in the first place? For that, they have no answer. But when I tell them, why the hell we threw the plastic into the ocean in the first place? Now, skilling doesn't mean that we must apply the cutting edge of technology to withdraw that microplastic. The skill also lies in telling people, why do you throw the plastic in the first place? That's the simplest solution. Avoiding a problem is the best solution to the problem because the problem will not be there. Therefore, when it comes to skilling part, before that, I tell people, Arnab, as you say, I'm not as knowledgeable as you are, but I tell people most of the problems which occur in the ocean, they are only the consequence of what's happening underwater. On the surface, nothing happens literally. On the surface, only water evaporates and then it turns into rain, and you are happy about that. Other problems of temperature rising, pollution, all those threats are happening underwater. And if we don't understand the ocean underwater, we will not be able to relate that change underwater with the behavior over surface. And so far, very few people are paying attention to that. And now underwater, in my view, is a extremely complicated, knowledge-driven endeavor. You are speaking about sonar. but I am speaking about a 360-degree understanding of underwater domain. It will be understanding the ocean chemistry, physics, biology, and relationships between them and the communities, their action, what they expect from the ocean, and what they do to the ocean. We these days are talking about something called marine spatial planning, which means plan the space in marine ecosystems so that we don't damage the ocean so much. But how would you plan something which you don't even understand? We simply don't understand. So, how do we plan? I'm happy at least people have started talking about it, right? So, I'm thankful to Anup. At least he's talking about, we are happy talking about smaller problems in big way. But he's talking about a big problem in a small way. Close to the people, close to those who must understand what kind of problem we are getting into. And the kind of skills it's going to need is going to be immense. And we don't have it. I was again associated with the initial kind of position paper for skill development. I was told by Delhi, you are sitting in Europe, these guys do skill development very well. Why don't you go and understand how do they do it? And then tell us how we can do it. Like El Nino. So I spent a lot of time understanding how these guys do skill development and what can we learn from them. Whatever each country will have to have its own system, but it's good to learn from others. I was amazed to see how these people forecast the skill needs for next 20, 30 years. What they will need, because you know the trend where the world is going, right? You can do this SWOT analysis. Where are we heading? The technology, where is technology heading? And what kind of skills shall we need in next 20, 30 years? And then third, their industry, their chambers, their universities, their non-governmental bodies, their sarkar, they all sit together and then they think how to achieve these skills in the next 25 years. By the time industry comes up with a proposal, by then the skill is already there, right? And our problem is that we think of the skill when the problem has already arisen and is on our deck. Yes. While, of course, most lot of industry now has become the training centers, because when I used to meet them, I used to tell them, because we always say that we are the largest youth power in the world. And then we'll add technically trained manpower, right? And then they will tell us, all right, you're the largest youth manpower, but technical manpower is a questionable thing. They say, what you know, I don't need. What I need, you don't know. That's the problem. So, why do we create skills and knowledge? For whom? For self-emancipation? I'm sure no. There is an end user of that skill and knowledge. Do we ask that person what kind of skill and knowledge you need? The answer is no. So I think time has come, and in the process we frustrate both. The youth who thinks he has got the skill now, and he has not, and the industry which thinks they are producing, but they are not. So we are creating a lot of frustration in the system, right? I think since we are talking about skills now, I think we need to sit down, work out what exactly we need. I know we need a global vision, but it will be done sectorally, because that is how you will go up. In fact, most of the European and American companies in India, they have their own schools, in fact. They take IIT graduates, but then they train them for within their own companies because IIT skills are of no use to their industry, in fact. So either we are overskilling them or we are underskilling them, but we are not appropriately skilling them. So they overskill, they have to downgrade their skills. Now, a fellow goes for, say, automobile industry, but his skills are space. नीचे उतरो. So I think if we don't do this, then who said we have missed so many buses? I think Vice Chancellor mentioned. So there is a bus waiting for us, and the conductor is desperately waiting to whistle the bus to go. Now, if you do not board that bus, even that bus will go. All right, metro. I'll say metro. We'll miss that metro. And we'll be going to Nordic countries with a total population of 35 million or less and say, can you please give us those skills? Because 1.4 billion people do not have those skills. Thank you very much.